Immediately thereafter, the Eye of Truth released another beam of golden light that vanished into the time-severing flagon in a flash, and a burst of radiant golden light appeared over its surface as well. The flagon was looking rather old and battered, and it quickly reverted back to its brand new form while giving off a burst of formidable time law power fluctuations. Han Li closed his eyes to examine the time law powers to discover that it was rather similar to that of the mantra treasured axis. Both time law powers had a time-slowing effect, and due to the overlap, there was no need for him to waste time on examining this treasure any further. After setting down the time-severing flagon, he pulled out his heaven-controlling vial, then tipped the drop of green spirit liquid into the flagon before closing his eyes to examine what was happening inside the flagon with his spiritual sense. Sometime later, he reopened his eyes and heaved a faint sigh. The time-severing flagon was indeed able to slow down the rate of decay of its contents, but it couldn't completely counteract the effects of time. The drop of green spirit liquid was dissipating at a rate slower than normal, but it was still slowly dissipating. Nonetheless, with a shake of his head, he turned to the azure wooden ruler before gazing upon it with his eye of truth. A beam of golden light shot forth before vanishing into the ruler, causing it to shudder slightly. Externally, its appearance didn't change much, and it began to glow with radiant golden and azure light. Furthermore, the time law power fluctuations that it was giving off were even more formidable than that of the time-severing flagon. Han Li's eyes lit up slightly upon seeing this, and he immediately closed his eyes to conduct a closer examination. In doing so, he discovered that the time law powers imbued within the wooden ruler had a time acceleration effect similar to that of his reversal true axis. However, unlike his reversal true axis, which only affected the user, the time law powers within the wooden ruler could alter the rate of passage of time in an area. In this regard, it was rather similar to the illusory dawn Xianxia. After stowing away his mantra treasured axis, Han Li took a deep breath, then closed his eyes to ponder the three types of time law powers that he had just witnessed. Around half a month passed by in a flash, and as Han Li opened his eyes, a hint of enlightenment flashed through them. It seemed that he had further deepened his understanding of the laws of time. In particular, after repeatedly examining the time law powers imbued within the azure wooden ruler, he had improved his understanding of the connection between the mantra axis scripture and the illusory dawn treasured scripture. He made a hand seal to summon his mantra treasured axis, and at the same time, he also summoned his clear time vial. Simultaneously, a burst of golden light emerged over his body before spreading outward to form countless grains of golden sand. Channeling all three time attribute cultivation arts at once, three bursts of different time law powers surged through the secret chamber before intertwining with one another. Compared with last time, the three time law powers were resonating far more strongly than before, particularly the time law powers of the mantra treasured axis and the illusory dawn Xianxia. A hint of elation flashed through Han Li's eyes upon seeing this, and he began to fuse the three time law powers once again. The three bodies of golden light intertwined with one another to form a rumbling vortex, and given what had happened last time, Han Li decided it was best to take some precautionary measures. With that in mind, he swept a sleeve through the air to release a string of azure array flags that were littered throughout the entire secret chamber to form a thick azure light barrier. Immediately thereafter, he also released a flurry of yellow array flags that formed a semi-transparent yellow restriction in the air. The azure and yellow restrictions fused with each other to form an even more resilient light barrier, while Han Li summoned several defensive immortal treasures to protect himself before he continued with what he was doing. The golden vortex began to rapidly accelerate in its revolution, while slowly shrinking in size, and countless golden runes of different sizes appeared within it, before clashing violently against one another, sending violent time law power fluctuations surging through the air. Given his previous experience, Han Li already knew what to expect, and he pressed on without pause, causing the golden vortex to brighten and contract even further, A fearsome law aura surged out of the center of the vortex, and it seemed to be on the brink of exploding. After a brief hesitation, Han Li continued to persevere, and the golden vortex abruptly shrank down even further, bringing it even closer to the verge of explosion. Right at this moment, the three bursts of fiercely clashing time law powers suddenly mellowed out before fusing as one, while the churning golden runes stiffened, before transforming into a tiny golden ring. A hint of relief surfaced in Han Li's eyes upon seeing this. With that, he had confirmed that he hadn't just fused the three time law powers by blind luck last time. He had no idea what this golden ring was, but it clearly possessed extraordinary power. Bursts of vast time law power fluctuations were surging out of the golden ring, causing the nearby azure and yellow light barriers to ripple violently, but they were able to hold themselves together. Right at this moment, the heaven-controlling vial suddenly flew up from the ground before approaching the golden ring. At the same time, the three-time attribute Immortal treasures on the ground had also flown up alongside the heaven-controlling vial, much to Han Li's surprise. The golden ring seemed to have detected something, and it began to glow more radiantly than ever. The three Immortal treasures were clearly far lighter than the heaven-controlling vial, and they were the first to be sucked into the golden ring. A loud explosion rang out as the three Immortal treasures instantly exploded upon flying into the golden ring, forming three balls of radiant golden light that vanished into the ring. The golden ring lit up even further, and it abruptly expelled 8 translucent golden threads. These were none other than time law threads, and they shot into Han Li's body in a flash before appearing around his mantra-treasured axis. With that, the number of time threads around the mantra-treasured axis had increased to 26, and all of them were glowing radiantly, much to Han Li's shock and elation. It seemed that this golden ring was capable of refining time attribute Immortal treasures into time law threads. Right at this moment, the heaven-controlling vial began to glow with dazzling green radiance before being sucked into the golden ring, upon which it instantly swelled to the size of a house, and countless green runes emerged within the vial to form a churning green cloud. A burst of formidable law power fluctuations erupted out of the green cloud, and the mantra-treasured axis behind Han Li abruptly lit up, following which the Eye of Truth appeared at its center. The Eye of Truth released a translucent golden thread that shot into the heaven-controlling vial in a flash, and this golden thread was far thicker than the one from last time. All of a sudden, a thick pillar of green light erupted out of the heaven-controlling vial to part the space up ahead, and a vast expanse of translucent light surged forth to form a translucent wall, with countless scenes rapidly flashing over its surface. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this. In the past, his spiritual transmigrations had taken place completely out of his control, but he had finally found a way to trigger the heaven-controlling vial into activating this ability. The wall of translucent light glowed brighter and brighter, and an enormous rumbling vortex appeared on its surface. The vortex released a burst of suction force that was far more tremendous than last time, and it enveloped Han Li's entire body before sucking him toward the vortex. A hint of surprise flashed through Han Li's eyes upon seeing this. Could it be that this vortex was going to suck in his physical body as well? However, it seemed like Vortex's suction force wasn't sufficient to get the job done, and in the next instant, he landed back on the ground. However, his soul was still sucked out of his body without being able to pose any resistance, and his consciousness instantly faded. Sometime later, he slowly returned to his senses, then began to inspect his surroundings. Upon which, he discovered that he had returned to that murky gray space once again, with the huge silver river flowing through the air beside him. A contemplative look appeared on his face upon seeing this. It seemed like whenever the heaven-controlling vial was triggered by the immense time law powers of the Golden Ring, his soul would be transported to this place. He carefully thought back to what had taken place just now, and it occurred to him that during both of the latest transmigrations, the vortex on the translucent wall had displayed signs of sucking in his physical body. On top of that, The suction force released by the vortex just now was clearly far more powerful than before. Compared with the last transmigration, neither his powers nor his mastery over the laws of time had improved, and the only real difference was the 8-time law threads that he had suddenly attained. Could it be that if I can attain a sufficient number of time law threads, my physical body will also be transported to this place? After mulling over this notion for a moment, Hanli quickly cast aside this train of thought before flying over to the Silver River. There were countless balls of light of different sizes flowing through the river, each of which depicted a different flashing image. Given his previous experience, he now knew that each ball of light represented something that had happened in the past. He didn't know where these balls of light came from, but through them, he could choose where his soul was sent to. Hanli made sure to keep his distance from the balls of light as he observed them from afar, and he also refrained from extending his spiritual sense toward them. The balls of light flowed past peacefully without sucking in his soul, and Hanli was quite relieved to see this. It seemed that as long as kept his distance and restrained his own spiritual sense, no transmigration would take place. With that in mind, he began to carefully inspect the passing balls of light. They were all traveling at an astonishing speed, but with his exceptional eyesight, he was still able to see many things.